Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Sharon and this is a channel that is dedicated to all things related to narcissism. I release new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on all types of topics related to narcissism. So if you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. I would really appreciate it if you gave the video a thumbs up. It's a free way you can help me out, and definitely don't forget to leave a comment because I like to read what you have to say. In today's video, I want to discuss the extreme importance of never forgetting what a narcissist really is. Not who a narcissist is. I'm talking about what this thing is, what this being is, what this entity really is. Narcissists have the ability to act kind, to act loving, to act sweet, but at their core, what you're really dealing with is a malicious, malevolent, evil, vile creature who will destroy your life. Now, if you think about things in life, right? People can tell you bad things that have happened to them, and it can prevent you from having the same bad thing happen to yourself, right? I don't need somebody to tell me that there are sharks in the ocean, right? I don't need somebody to tell me that if I'm on a boat in the ocean and I see like a fin sticking up, that's not a good time for me to dive into the water. Why do I know this? Because other people have actually been attacked. Or like there's the whole thing against drunk driving, right? Why do people tell you that? Who tells you this? It's people who know people who had their family, their husband, their child who was killed by a drunk driver. You don't need to experience the same thing that they have. Now, many of you know that I'm a snake person. I have snakes, I love snakes, I breed snakes. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about what you need to know from a venomous snake. I recently was bitten by a venomous snake. So I'm going to tell you what happened to me, and then you'll know that you should not do the same thing that I did. My daughter learned she should not do the same thing that I did. So I keep and breed hognose snakes. I breed 3 types of snakes. Hognose snakes are one of the ones I breed. They're mildly venomous, so we're not talking about a rattlesnake or anything here. And just like a little fun fact, if you are not a snake person, and if you are, you'll know what I'm talking about, snakes are not poisonous. There's no such thing as a poisonous snake. Snakes are venomous. They have venom. They inject their venom. Their fangs, what you think of with a snake, are hollow. And venom gets injected straight into your bloodstream. When that happens, depending on the type of snake, you are looking at misery, possibly death. It will turn your blood into ketchup. I mean, that's what's happening. So you can imagine what that does to your body. I don't need to get bit by a rattlesnake to understand I need to take precautions. Similarly with the hognose snake. So I got bit on January 1st. Now this snake is mildly venomous. It's been compared to like a bee sting, right? So it's not going to incapacitate you unless you happen to be a frog or a toad or a mouse, but it is going to hurt. However, it's very rare to get bit by a hognose snake, especially if you don't keep them, because their fangs are in the back of their mouth. So in order to envenomate you, and they don't have hollow fangs, they have a toxic saliva. In order to get that toxic saliva into your bloodstream to do the damage, they have to bite you, right? They have to chew on you because you have to get whatever it is. In my case, I was bit on my thumb into its mouth and really start chewing. So on January 1st, I was taking care of my hognose snakes. I picked this guy up. His name is Nahum. I picked Nahum up and he immediately bit me right out of the tank. And that's pretty common when you get bit. It's usually because snakes, as Joe says, shoot first, aim later. So they'll just go. They'll just bite something if they think it's a potential prey. Apparently my thumb was the potential prey. So Nahum had me, and he had me good. I could feel him pulling my thumb into his mouth, and it didn't feel good. Typically, when you get bit by a snake, it really isn't that painful. It looks worse than it is because their saliva stops your blood from coagulating, so it kind of like streams down. So I could feel him sucking me in, and he was chewing down on me, and I started bleeding, couldn't get the snake off. Now the thing with snakes is that once they're on, they have to want to let go. It's very, very difficult. I mean, you see in movies or things, people chop off the head. Yes, because you cannot get it off. So my daughter, who's very good with snakes, was trying to help me. She was trying to get him off. My son was there. They couldn't get him off. So Joe, like yelling for Joe, he comes, and the way he got the snake off, the way my hero came, he came and he put rubbing alcohol in the snake's mouth. That had the snake let go. But when he let go, it felt worse. It was throbbing and burning blood. It was bad. It looked terrible. It was actually, it looked a lot worse than it really was, but it was scary, right? So for about 15, 20 minutes, it was just burning and throbbing. And I was like, wow. Previous to this, the worst bite I ever had was by a ball python. And that she bit and immediately let go, but it bled and bled. This one was painful. So finally, after a little while, it felt better. But shortly after that, it started swelling up my hand. Now, interestingly, my thumb that I was bit on did not swell up. Neither did any of my fingers, but the top of my hand was swelled way up. In fact, at one point, I went to the store with my son, and I was taking Benadryl right at the store, hoping it would help, because the top of my hand was so swollen, my skin was tight. I felt like my skin was going to rip. It was that bad. The next day, though, it looked better. It definitely looked better. You can actually see that I had some knuckles, right? Like the top knuckles on the top of my hand, not my fingers. They never swelled. So you could tell that I had some bone in there. The day after that, it was all gone. However, today, right now, while I'm making this video, I noticed that I have blisters on my thumb from where the snake bit me. Right where he bit me are blisters. So I'm still having the effect of this several weeks later. Now, do you think that when my daughter, she has 2 hognose snakes herself, do you think that when she's taking her snakes out, she is not going to be aware that something bad could happen, that the snake could get her? Now, not like I said, it's not a rattlesnake. It's not going to, you're not going to die from this, but if it gets you good, it'll give you a day or two of wishing you hadn't picked the snake up. Do you think that now, because she saw what happened to me, that she will not take precautions? Of course she will. What about me? Do you think that now I'm like, oh, whatever, I'll just do this again? No. Nobody else has to have this problem to know I don't want to say stay away, but to have precautions, to take precautions. Similarly, I've never been bitten by a rattlesnake, hope to never be bitten by one, but I do know, because other people have been, that if I'm hiking in the woods, I need to wear boots with I can't wear shoes, I should wear boots, right? So my ankles are protected, because that's where they typically bite. When you know there's the potential for danger, you don't have to experience it. You can see other people's experience. That's what I try to do with this channel. Now, I know many of you are in entanglements already, right? It's not like you went on a date or two, happened to hear this video. Oh, geez, that sounds familiar. No, you're already entangled. But it is so crucial for me to tell you, for you to know it doesn't get better. You are forced to take action. Just like, actually, let me just backtrack for a second. I've said before, I know this sounds nuts to some people, but, I tell you how it is on my channel. I believe that narcissists are actually demonic, that they're demonic entities. Whether they know it or not, they are influenced by evil. If you are right now living with a narcissist, you are in a war. Your home is a war zone. There's a spiritual battle going on. And the more you know, the more you see, the worse it gets. Because narcissists don't get better. They get bolder. And once they know, game over. You are literally fighting for your life at that point. Narcissist, at the beginning of my entanglement, my ex, I thought he was a sweet, kind person. But in retrospect, there were things he did that were not sweet and kind. If this is you, please pay attention. Silent treatments. That was one of the biggest things with my ex, silent treatments. And I was so confused. I didn't know what a silent treatment was. I had no idea. Like, why isn't he talking to me? When I think of how innocent I used to be, I would actually think, maybe he didn't hear me. And so I would say his name louder. He heard me. He was choosing to ignore me. Our minds, like if you're a good person, if you're a decent person, you assume other people are like that. And so when my ex was ignoring me, I didn't think he was ignoring me because I wouldn't do that. I'm thinking I should speak louder. Maybe he has a hearing problem. This is what I'm thinking. Then he started physically abusing me. Now, he only did this a few times, so this wasn't throughout our entanglement, but he did it. That potential, ever since then, I knew that potential was always there. That's who he was. But he was so sorry. He didn't mean to. Guys, he wants to treat me for the rest of his life like the queen that he knows I am. He's telling me these things. And what do I want? I want to have a family. I want to have children. I want to have a loving husband. I'm ready to be a good wife, a good mom, and that's what I want to do. So when you want something so bad, and then you're hearing what you want to hear, God, I'm a queen to him. He wants to be the best dad ever. Wow, that type of thing. Like, I'll tell you another thing. This is just like a little side story, but oh, you guys, I actually knew somebody who died after they had a child. So just like I told you, something happens, you're aware of it. Someone else has experienced it, you're aware of it. So I wasn't overly concerned that I wasn't going to make it, but because I did know somebody who passed away right after childbirth, I told my ex that if something happened, right, like if there was an issue, a complication, save Paris's life, save her life over mine. And he said to me, I don't know that I can promise you that, because we can make another baby, but there'd never be another you. Now, it's messed up in a way for me to tell you I found that romantic, but I did. Wow, he really loves me. Now, you guys, the reason he said that isn't because I'm the queen and he doesn't want anything to happen to me. The last thing he would want to do is be a single dad. Oh my gosh, that would be just a nightmare to him. So of course he would have to save me. You hear what you want to hear oftentimes. As my entanglement got worse, I guess I don't want to say worse. It did get worse, but as it went on, it got worse and worse. As soon as I knew what was up, that was the beginning of the end, you guys. The cruelty was off the charts. He would stay out for days at a time. He wouldn't come home. You guys know the story if you've listened to my channel for a while. He showed up at the house with a loaded gun. I had to call the police several times, especially in the last few months, to have him out of there. He wasn't hiding it from me. I lived in hell, literally. I tell you that you're in a spiritual battle, you're at war. Well, when you're at war and you don't 100% know what's going on, there's little breaks in it. When they know that you're at full-blown war. They don't care about anything or anybody except their agenda. Now they don't have to act anymore. What do they want? They want whatever it is they want. They want to have money. They want to have power. They want to control you, whatever it is. Like, that's what they want. My ex stole money from my kids. Like I told you, he showed up at the house wasted with a loaded gun at one point. He broke into my house the very last day we were together. He tried to get me arrested. Now, this is the same person who physically abused me. I've never physically abused him, but he tried to, thankfully, this was what it took. I'm glad I'm not telling you, yes, this happened and I still stayed. No, I didn't, but I stayed for almost 20 years before this. I was mad at him, right? I told him to leave the house. He starts to get ready to leave the house, right? Then I was pissed at him, and I told him, you know what? I'm going to tell people who you really are. I'm going to tell people exactly who you are. He turned around. He started banging his own head on the wall over and over and over. It was a bloody mess. He was bleeding. He was bruised. It was horrible. The whole time he was just banging his head, he's screaming, "Mommy's hurting me. Mommy's hurting me." Right? Today, it's like my daughter and I actually laugh about this. My son does not. My daughter and I laugh about this. Just the insanity of him banging his own head, pretending I was doing it when I was across the room from him. All right? The police come to the house. I called 911. And the police, first of all, 911's like, get out of the house. Get out of the house right now. And I wouldn't leave the house because my kids were upstairs. So I had the 911, you got to get out of the house. And he's banging his head, "Mommy's hurting me." Then the police show up. All right, so as soon as the police show up, he stops. He stops doing it. And he goes into full-on acting mode. He's an actor at this point. And this is how he said it. You guys, this is one of the biggest shocks I've ever had in my entire life. I couldn't believe it. So the police separate us. And, they want to know what's going on, right? So they're talking to me. They're speaking to my ex. He's in the driveway. I'm inside the garage. I heard him say, and then she just picked me up and threw me into the wall, and I was begging her to stop, and she just over and oh, it was so painful. And then I wanted to press charges. I want her arrested. I'm listening to this. Probably my mouth was wide open. I couldn't believe he said that. But let's go back a minute. We're talking about who a narcissist really is, remembering who they are. When you are under extreme pressure, right? The real you comes out. There are people that wouldn't hesitate to, I was actually out this weekend and someone was talking about hesitation, right? The kids and I went to this gun safety class, and it was talking about how, say there was a shark tank, a tank full of sharks, right? You wouldn't go in to have a swim. Like, you wouldn't decide to go take a dip. But what happens if your child was in there? Your instinct, you wouldn't think about it. People would probably try to hold you back, or like running, you dive in, or even if it meant your death, right? If there was a house fire, like this happened to me one time, not a house fire, but our carbon monoxide detector went off, and we got out of the house, right? It was like my ex was still at the house there, my ex, me, the kids, and our dogs were out of the house. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to lose all my other animals because I have my reptile breeding business. I had sugar gliders, right? There was a hamster. My daughter started freaking out. My guinea pig, I have to get my guinea pig. And I was like, oh, hell no, you're not going in that house. My ex was like, no, you can't go in the house. I went in the house. Like, it was just, I went in the house. And I can remember running through the house, going upstairs to her. And then there was 2 guinea pigs. I had to get 2 of them. So I'm going through the house thinking, all right, I'm going to drop dead. All of a sudden I'm going to die. Like, that's what I'm thinking. But I kept going. I had to get those guinea pigs. So I got the guinea pigs. I snatched them out of their cages. I'm running downstairs with these guinea pigs clutched to my chest. And it turned out that it was okay. It was a faulty carbon monoxide detector. But I didn't know that at the time. It was just, I can't upset my daughter. I have to do this. Who you are will come out during excruciating moments, fearful moments, when the narcissist is backed against a wall, like my ex was when he was going to be kicked out of the house yet again. He flipped out and started telling the police that it was me. He would have said anything. He would have thrown his own kids under the bus. In fact, he has. Right now, my kids are still suffering from the things my ex has done, their father. They don't see him. They haven't seen him for a few years, but he stole all their money. He stole everything my daughter had for college. She can't have a car today because he stole that money. But you know what? During the divorce, he told the divorce attorney, whatever, that I spent on the credit cards too. I didn't. I don't even have one of his credit cards. I couldn't beat that. I couldn't win because it was community property. So I'm paying half his debt. My daughter is in college right now. She had to pay for some of her classes by herself, and I can't even afford to help her until my house sells and I get some money from that. That's because of him. That we're being affected today. And even when the house sells, I have to give him more because of his credit card debt that he hid from me. Like, that's like another whole story. My point, they will do whatever it takes. They are vile, cruel creatures. If you're with somebody, and my first clue was silent treatment, but I didn't know what it was, pay attention. Don't be the person that's like, oh, I hear that rattlesnakes are in that area of the woods. I'm going to go barefoot through on a hike. No, that would be stupid. You're going to get in trouble. You're going to have danger if you're bit by a snake. Similarly, if you're with a narcissist, they aim to kill, and they get incredibly vengeful towards you. They hate you. They despise you if you catch on to who they are. If you try to put a stop to it, they don't do well with it, and they will do anything. My ex tried to get me arrested. He lied straight to the police, tried to get me arrested. He wouldn't change his mind. He just wouldn't. The police officer said to me, I find that difficult to believe. There's a noticeable size difference between you two. That was why I didn't get arrested. And there was somebody who left me a comment a couple of weeks ago. He's in trouble right now with the law for a similar thing. This person hurt herself and blamed him. This happened to Joe. This happens, especially if you're a man. Be very, very careful. If it's because I'm a woman that I wasn't arrested for domestic violence. That's the only reason. If you're with a woman who's a narcissist, I'm telling you right now, you are in extreme danger because they will turn on you and they will try to hurt you. They'll do anything. Joe told me before, his ex put her hand in boiling water to blame him for burning her. Like, do you know what I'm saying? This is the type of evil that we're dealing with. This isn't somebody who panics or, runs a red light or tells the cops they actually weren't speeding. This is somebody that will throw you under the bus every time. You don't need to experience it to know this. But if you already are experiencing it, if you know that this is happening in your life right now, do what you have to do to get out. It doesn't get better. Me, Joe, so many people hoped it would get better. Was so afraid to end this. Thought, well, because I used to think, I was convinced, I know my ex can be a good person because I've seen him be that way. I've experienced this. Of course he can do this. If he's done it before, why can't he do it long term? I didn't know that he was acting. I didn't know that the real him was the one who was doing this every once in a while. As it got worse, and when it got worse, it's because I knew what was going on. He was like that all the time. There's no faking. You are in a full-out war in your own house, and everything connected to that is going to fall down on you. It's going to fall down on your kids. They don't get better. I heard a story recently this week about a woman who was involved with a narcissist. She had kids with this narcissist. They were planning on getting married. Like, they had a pretty good life until he started slipping up and he started drinking again. He had been an alcoholic. He was drinking again. It got to the point where she moved out with the kids. He sent the police to her house in the middle of the night because he wanted her car. Right? This is a car that was in his name, but she paid for it. He wanted that car, and that meant his kids don't have a car. That meant that she doesn't have a car. He doesn't need the car. He already has one. Joe's ex did that. She stole his car. He was carless because this person stole the car. They'll do anything. Anything. So if you're with a narcissist, I'm telling you now, you're with a rattlesnake. And maybe they won't get you today, maybe they won't get you next week, but if you keep walking around them, right? If you keep walking barefoot around a rattlesnake, I guarantee you're going to get bit. If you keep walking around a narcissist, you keep hoping it gets better, you keep putting up with silent treatments, you put up with this, you put up with that, you're afraid to leave, you can't leave. The kids, what will the kids do? You're going to get hurt. You're going to get bit. So think of this now. Know this ahead of time. What can I do? Immediately start with awareness. Don't make the mistake of thinking, well, that might happen to Sharon. That might happen to Joe, but it's not going to happen to me. I thought that too until I was standing in my garage listening to someone trying to get me hauled off to jail for something I didn't do. And I tell you that, and that was that was it. That ended it for me. That's nothing compared to people like Joe who actually spent 10 days in jail. This happened. You are in danger. You're around a rattlesnake, and you're around a rattlesnake with vengeance. Kind of like the movie Jaws, right? Like a shark is not going to purposely try to attack you. It wants to eat. It's defending itself, whatever it is. In Jaws, this big beast of a great white was attacking people purposely, eating boats and all this crazy stuff. That's the narcissist. They want to hurt you. Vengeance is their middle name. Nobody gets one over on the narcissist. And because they don't have a conscience, because like I said at the beginning, I believe they're actually demonic, nothing stops them. But you can say no, don't allow it, do whatever you have to do to get away. They can't beat you if you do take the right steps. But if you stay with a narcissist, they'll bring you down. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. I hope this video helped. I am going to make a video with my daughter. Actually, today's Wednesday. I'm making it with my daughter later on today. We're going to have a divorce celebration party that I'm not sure when I'm going to air that. It might be, usually it would be Friday, but I'm thinking about doing a live chat with you guys while the video's on. So I might do that on Saturday. So I may take a little poll on that on the community page later, see if anyone's interested. There are going to be giveaways, by the way. I'm giving away some gift cards, I'm giving away some stickers, and I'm giving away my daughter's book that she wrote. So definitely stay tuned for that. I hope everybody has a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next one. God bless.